I'm coming back, I swear. Hold on 1 second. Just give me 1 second. I'm just trying to set up a new scene live in stream, and we all know how terrible of an idea that is, but I can't stop having terrible ideas. So, all right, well, here we are. We're on stream. We got the face cam. We're recording. We're chilling. This was just fantastic news. Everything about this was just good. I really didn't hear anything I didn't like. Everything was what I thought was going to be the primary focus and more. This balance patch is exactly what it sounds like. It is meant to balance the game as much as humanly possible. There's not going to be a lot of new stuff, but what we are getting is the input delay buffer, or I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but we're getting the 30 frames of input delay taken out, or not taken out. We can modify it now, so we can choose exactly where we want that to be, how quickly we want our moves to react. They're giving us options for sensitivity dead zones, so that way your different directional attacks will be able to be input more cleanly based on the sensitivity of your controller. I know that I personally, when I was playing with an Xbox Elite controller, was having huge problems with sensitivity input, and so I actually switched over from a $200 Elite controller to like a $40 just, I don't even know, Power A, which is a fine brand. I've been using it and it's a fine controller, but I had to downgrade my controller because I felt like the sensitivity of the really top tiers was not compatible with the style and the pace of Multiversus. So this is huge quality of life changes. This is just overall a balance patch that's going to make the game more fun to play for tournaments, for just casual pubs, ladder matches. They really tried to make sure that they fleshed out the spectating mode, so that way not only are we going to have spectating mode, you're going to have 4 different people given the ability to view spectator mode at once. Those spectators are going to be able to customize their own UIs in spectation, so that way if you're playing the game and you have your UI set up so that way you can read the gameplay better, but the TO wants to set up his UI for ease of viewership. That is the type of stuff that we have really needed. It's a community building tool. It specifically, I was just casting a stream yesterday, and this was a huge problem. I mean, I wasn't the one in charge of the stream, but I was a caster, and watching the person try to fight with all of the different videos that he had to pull to get stream footage live for the tournament on our stream, it was frustrating. It was really hard. He had to use so many different creative ways of pulling up different footage of stream footage, or getting the people into a Discord lobby so that they could share their screen live in Discord and then record from there. That's not feasible. It's not a good way to run a community. It's not a good way to run really anything as far as trying to build up a scene that you want as many people as humanly possible to be involved in. The more steps anybody has to take to get involved in it is always going to push people away at the door. And this is, I mean, really everything about this balance patch feels like it's meant for people coming into the game, so that way there's not as much frustration around the just learning curve. There's not as much cheese. It looks like overall they tried to take out as much degeneracy as humanly possible. Not being able to spam your parry button is a huge thing. Not being able to spam jab loops, which they already nerfed, but as far as what they were talking about, they're going to try to really make sure that a lot of characters that had super effective jabs are going to have those jabs tailored to where they are useful poke tools, but not the only tool that most characters need to have in their arsenal to be able to win tournaments. Another huge quality of life change is going to be just all of the talking I heard about making sure that inputs are smooth. And there was a lot of different ways they explained it. There was a lot of different ways that they seem like they're going to be attacking this. But really the core theme of this entire Q&A was really two things. One, we see that Joker, Shaggy, and Wonder Woman are outrageously broken, and so we're tailoring them to be more in line with the rest of the cast. They also told us they're going to make sure that Gizmo and Iron Giant get touched up really heavily as well to make sure that they don't, just take over the top of the meta as soon as the top three are cooked down. And then just overall, it feels like they really wanted to take out all of the degenerate spamming of side airs, spamming of different things that just made the game not fun to play in a tournament setting specifically. And I'm loving it. I'm here for it. I don't think this is going to make the game explode and now all of a sudden no one's going to have any problems with it. These are video game competitive players. They will find something to complain about everything. And if you don't believe me, you're stupid. I'm sorry. I've been watching video games since 1997. I have been deeply involved on a spiritual level when it comes to following the game industry, following trends, and following pretty much everything that has to do with being a gamer pretty much my entire life. And for people that have been alive and been around these scenes just as long as I have been, to really just forget the past is kind of crazy to me. There have never been top level video game communities that don't rigorously bully the shit out of their favorite games and say this is broken, this needs to be changed, this needs to be nerfed, this needs to be completely gutted. And if you don't believe me, the FGC probably officially started with the release of Street Fighter 2, right? I mean, if we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty of it, there's maybe some other games, but Street Fighter 2 is really the game that made the FGC kind of come together. And I don't know where I'm exactly going with that quote, but effectively that is where the FGC was born. Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 1 was fine, but Street Fighter 2 was where everybody was like, no, I need to be the best at this fucking game because everybody in my school plays it, everybody at the arcade plays it, and if I'm not good at this game, then I'm not cool. That's just kind of, if you went to arcades back in the mid-90s, early 2000s, specifically the mid-90s, you better have a damn good fucking Ryu, you better have a damn good Zangief, you better have a damn good fucking Kami, Chun-Li, you better have something. You better have something, because if you didn't, you just weren't really a gamer. And that's just the toxic culture that's been around fighting games and just competitive games for the entirety of competitive gaming. And to go back to my point of these players never actually even really like the games that they play to begin with, to the point where they're always complaining about this or that, or they could do this better, they could change that better. If you ever actually do research on Street Fighter 2, you'll probably realize that there's like 38 different versions of Street Fighter 2. That's because people that got a hold of original Street Fighter 2 cabinets and knew how to code literally just recoded the game, slapped a new name on it, and said, this is a new Street Fighter because I like it this way better. I think I know how to make a better fighting game than the devs that created this game. And that's what Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo is. That's effectively the devs taking all of the best parts of all of the different ROM hacks that hackers had done to these arcade cabinets, and they just made the smoothest, best version of Street Fighter 2 that they possibly could. And that to this day is effectively what people think of when they think of Street Fighter 2. They think of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. But yeah, my original point to that is I'm just excited to see a game company that really wants to be involved in the esports community, that wants to be a top name in the FGC. I mean, they wouldn't have given the largest first-time prize pool to Multiversus for just the 2v2 bracket for the very first time they were at EVO while the game was in beta. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. And for people to think that this game is gonna die, Warner Brothers needs this game to succeed. Trust me, they need it to. They realize how few resources they're actually pouring into this project, because everybody wants to think that this is a huge project with big funding. No, this is Warner Brothers' experiment. They are not giving big money to this project until it makes big money. That is the deal. It is going to get minimum funding. It is going to get whatever base resources Warner Brothers feels Player First Games deserves. But that is the huge difference between Player First Games and their relationship with Warner Brothers and any other company that is under the Warner Brothers Games library umbrella, whatever you want to refer to it as. Player First Games is a dev studio specifically created by a lot of really talented game programmers, a lot of people that worked on combat engines for AAA titles, a lot of people that were a part of some of the best gaming studios before they did all these huge purges. All the people that get upset about all the different companies that Microsoft fired, all the different companies that Bethesda, laid off, all these employees that were just released out into the workforce, like with the Blizzard mass layoffs, everything. Where do you think those people went? Do you think they just disappeared? Do you think that these good game developers that have made fantastic games in the past just disappeared off the face of the planet? No, most of them went to go make their own independent projects, which is why we've got so many great indie titles coming out on Steam. Most of them went to small companies that actually want to work with them and give them the resources to make the games they want to make, which is what you're seeing with a company like Big Mode over with the video game Donkey and his team. And then you've got teams like Player First Games that kind of come together, make their own independent studio, and then say to themselves, let's see if we can get ourselves to work with a property. Another great example of that is the Hunter x Hunter game that's just come out recently, Nen Impact. Same basic situation. A lot of people are giving that game crap because it looks cheap, it looks old, it looks like all this, but when you actually sit down and play it, what you're getting is a really, really faithful adaptation of the Hunter x Hunter character roster adapted to play like Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Maybe not exactly. I don't know nearly enough about Marvel vs. Capcom, but that's the comparison I keep seeing made, is that it looks like Fighter Z, and Fighter Z was Marvel vs. Capcom 3. So, that's good stuff. Like, that's what we want. We want these smaller studios to be getting involved with these bigger IPs, to have access to these large names and these large titles, because they're the ones that are going to try to do something creative with it. And yeah, you're going to think to yourself, we've got all this money backed by the publishers, so why isn't the game better? The game's not better because it didn't make money yet. That's the shitty reality of pretty much everything in our modern society. Japan has always not given a fuck about whether or not something is a good idea if it hasn't already had an established, proven track record of making money. They don't want to fund it. And you want a really, really, really good example of that, specifically from Japan. Go back and watch Code Geass. Why Code Geass specifically? One of the best animes ever made, and most people genuinely agree with that statement. What's interesting about Code Geass, there was no manga made before the Code Geass anime was aired. Now, it does have a manga adaptation now, but before Code Geass aired live, there was no manga adaptation. And for anybody that actually knows a little bit about for anybody that knows a little bit about the way that, Japanese anime is produced, effectively, if you don't have... Wow, I just completely lost my train of thoughts. If you don't have an IP that already has a huge established backed fan base that you know is going to consume the product that you are going to create, which the best example of is manga to anime. Manga is a stagnant, panel-driven story. Anybody that loves that would probably love to see that story fleshed out in animation with full voice acting and full color spectrum and everything. So that it's an easy sell to any investor of this already made money. We're just going to spend a little bit of money to make something cool, and then that's going to make money. With Code Geass, they had to sell them on the idea. There had to be, we think this is a good idea. We think this could make money. It has not made money yet. I have not proven that this has already made money. What can we do about getting this made? Well, you know what they did? They went to Pizza Hut and they asked Pizza Hut if they would be willing to fund the entire anime. And they didn't fund the whole thing. They didn't give them their unlimited budget, but Pizza Hut effectively agreed to almost fully fund the creation of Code Geass. And the only thing they asked for in return was product placement in the anime, which is why if you ever watch Code Geass, they're always eating Pizza Hut. It's that simple. Pizza Hut decided to take a chance with this anime, and very specifically, you think about Pizza Hut, that's an American company, not a Japanese company. So it specifically took the mentality of American capitalism to back Code Geass on the thought that it would be profitable, and the only caveat that was thrown into the deal was that Code Geass needed to do a little bit of advertising on the part of Pizza Hut, and that's a really straightforward deal as far as, you know, an investment goes. Here, I'm gonna give you a huge investment, advertise my brand, please. That's simple. And now, today, Code Geass is one of the craziest franchises in existence, but it took that level of support from a huge company that was willing to buy in just on the promise of, you know, advertisement and, you know, getting their product in front of new eyes. That's really the whole gist of what we really want from this game. We want a passionate community that's willing to take chances, and maybe they need to do some weird deals with McDonald's. Maybe they need to do some weird deals here and there with the NHL or whatever it is to get attention on their product. Once the attention is there, we see that there is a dev team that is genuinely concerned about making the best, most fun, most engaging experience possible. And the fact that pretty much every single major complaint that the community had that was reasonable to address in this span of time, because let's be real, these children have no patience. They can wait a whole day before they can't wait any longer for anything to happen. And trust me, as somebody that actually had to grow up before the internet allowed me to know what was happening every second of every day, that shit drives me fucking crazy. Give them a goddamn second. What have you fucking made in a day? What have you created over the course of 6 hours that was so fucking great that you feel you have the right to speak like that to somebody that is putting their all into creating something for you? Go fuck yourself. And with that,